Everybody is asking whether that was the Bitcoin bottom, and some people are even saying that maybe that was the cycle top. But listen, guys, I have been looking at all of the data, and there was one signal that has literally never steered me wrong. And so today, we're going to tell you what that signal is. It literally just flashed. That will give us clear guidance on where the market is headed next. There is still a lot of opportunity here in the market, but you have to be extremely selective in which coins you're choosing. So today, I'm going to tell you guys exactly how I'm positioning to protect myself from any further major drawdowns, but make sure I'm still able to capture massive pumps as we continue with this market. All right, guys, let's get into it. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over here and look at this McDonald's pattern, which has been printing. Influencers are all saying all kinds of things, and this was programmed to rally. And well, actually, unfortunately, we broke past this. But yes, you see this big M and this line that I've been drawing forever, like 130 something days. Yeah, we broke below it. Now, the question is, will this line act as resistance, or will we go back to break it upward and use it as support? I don't really know, right? But that's what we're going to talk about in this video, and hopefully it'll give us some clarity. But today, we've had a pretty bullish day, and let's look at the top 100. Things are looking pretty good. And for the last hour, let's see how we're doing. Not too bad. And today, okay, and the week, that's still not great, but today we see a little bit of bounce. The question is, are we on the way back up? Simply, as I talked about many times on this channel before, we have every bull run, we have got major pullbacks anywhere in the tune from, on the low end, maybe 16, 18, 20%, to the high end, even we've had pullbacks as big as 38. And so far, as you can see from this chart for Rect Capital, that we're about 26% pullback from the local tops. That's not even from the absolute top of the market so far, but just in the local top, we're at 26% pullback. And as you can see from over here in Kaito, the chart, this is the sentiment analysis. We have the lowest sentiment in the market since bring us all the way back here to October 2023. So yeah, people are pretty depressed, and this is usually the time when we want to try to take advantage of the market. But are we done, or do we still have room to go down? So the Crypto Fear and Greed Index says that right now we're at 27. And if we look at here historically, you can see the past week, well, we're going in the right direction if we want to see a bottom. But are we there yet? That is a question that we're asking here. That is what we want to find out on the show today, and what kind of signals did actually flash recently to give us a more clear indication on exactly what's going on here. Now, as we can see back here, we come and look at the history of the Fear and Greed Index. And now keep in mind, this site, Bitcoin Tools, or BTC Tools, measures things a little bit differently. So their Fear and Greed Index isn't as bad as other ones. They're saying it's 34. But if we look at this historical chart here, we can see that every time that we come down into extreme fear, which is this red over here, that it's usually short-lived, and it's usually followed by quite the pump. What I believe we're going to see, I believe this is going to work out and follow to a T. Why? Because everything we've been talking about so far, we have this overhang. Crypto Nova over here says, when we look at the market today, we find ourselves in a very peculiar situation. We lost the range earlier, like I said, which means we are technically short-term bearish until we reclaim this. Fundamental support that behavior, government selling, Mt. Gox, Grayscale, etc., ETF trading. But guys, don't be fooled, because guess what? Everybody, all the smart money wants to buy your Bitcoin if you still have any left, if you're still in the game. As you can see, the past 2 days, we had pretty massive inflows. Who was buying the dip? Well, you can see on the 5th of July, $143 million inflows. And on the 8th of July, almost $300 million from the ETFs coming in to buy up the dip. So are they worried? No, they're not worried. They're buying the dip. So you have to have a good head on your shoulder and not be too focused and too zoomed in on short-term price. Look at this Bitcoin spot ETF cumulative flow, just up and up and up and up and up. You can also see that we have the German government who has sent an additional 8,100 Bitcoin, almost $500 million to exchanges and market makers since our previous update, including 200 million sent to flow traders in the past 5 minutes. They currently hold 1.66 billion, down from over $3 billion. So they've sold approximately half of the Bitcoin. And as we move forward, Woo Blockchain says the Bitstamp exchange said that according to the agreement with Mt. Gox trustee, Bitstamp has 60 days. So we're talking about this, the Mt. Gox hack, right? And the repayments of the assets. So Bitstamp has 60 days to distribute tokens and will ensure that these investors are compensated ASAP. Previously, several Mt. Gox creditors in Japan confirmed that they had received Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash compensation in exchange accounts on BitBank and Kraken. Okay, so let's take a look at what Alex Kruger is saying over here. He says, Gox has a total of 141,000 Bitcoin to be distributed, with 95,000 to be distributed within 90 days. That's the bulk majority of them, going to those who elected to receive an early distribution in exchange for a 10% haircut. So I think that these guys who wanted this early distribution, they're probably the ones who are more likely to sell, right? They want it, maybe they need it. For me, I would have opted into the other one, kept my 10%, and I would have had delayed gratification and taken a bit longer because I believe I know which way the market is going. So of those 95,000, 20,000 going to credit funds, 10,000 going to New Zealand exchange, which is entangled in its own bankruptcy process. So those might not get distributed too quickly, e.g. won't hit the market. 65,000 going to individual creditors or retailers, individual people who lost Bitcoin in the Mt. Gox hack. Let's make some assumptions. Assume that 30% of the 85,000 gets sold. That's 25.5 thousand. Assume Gox creditors sell 30% in one scoop rather than spread through time. Assume the quantity and price relationship is linear, even though it's not. Assume Germany sells its entire remaining stack in one scoop. Then we would have 23.7 plus 25.5 divided by 16 times 0.035 equals 10.5%. That would trigger a 10.5% instant dump. The market can absorb that. Yeah, it can absorb that, but that's probably where we could see the most important things. So I think, and I would like to see the fear and greed index drop down, because if we look at the worst peaks, they all kind of come down quite low. This one was at 11, brutal. This one, before it goes back up, it was at 14 here. And here you've got this, let's see, going back to, essentially, these ones are the ones that happened post-halving before the 2021 bull run. 24, 24. This still has a ways to go. So I wouldn't mind seeing this, the fear and greed come down a little bit. And I believe that's probably what's going to happen. Mt. Gox still has almost the whole 8 billion. This was 8.1 before, so they haven't distributed much, and they still have to offload all of this. That's not going directly into sale pressure. Some people are going to sell, some people are not. I try to put myself in the shoes of these people quite a bit, and I imagine they've been following Bitcoin for a long time because they've been waiting for this for a decade. They've probably been paying attention to the market. But again, some of them probably just need money. So I imagine that what Alex Kruger said was probably quite accurate, that maybe people on average 35% will be sold. But anyway, let's take a look at the timeline from the halving until cycle top. So in 2016 was a halving. The cycle top in 2017, that was 532 days. In the 2021 bull run, 553 days. This cycle so far from halving, we're only 81 days in, guys. So we could be talking about another 450 plus more days of this bull run, which is over a year. We're talking about like almost a year and a few months. And this is kind of exactly what my timeline looks like. You know that I believe that we're going to start to see a big run up, probably somewhere in September, October. We're going to see from that point on, probably about a year. And I will know for sure when we use the tools that I've showed you in that video. If you haven't seen, I'll put a link in the description below on how to call the cycle top. Great video on that with technical indicators that never, ever steer me wrong, and will allow you to kind of have a better gauge, not judging the market on price, but more on technicals on how to try to identify where the approximate range of the cycle top is. Very important video, very, very important. But remember this, guys, as Nick says, crypto is 95% pain and suffering and only 5% glory, which is life-changing. And this comes from my man, Cryptocito. What's up, Cryptocito? Getting it, if you haven't watched his channel, go watch his channel. Good guy. Getting it framed and placed on the wall. And here's the man himself. So I feel like it's true. I mean, it is a brutal market that loves to spit you up and chew you out. And unless you're watching this kind of content or you've been through it yourself a while, it's very easy to fall victim to the manipulation and the kind of emotional strings that are being pulled, because it always seems like when you are about to give up, is when the market turns. It's when you feel like you're about to give up that you need to make a decision to either give up or stick through it and keep pushing. And typically the newer folk, they usually give up. And right after that is when the market ends up pumping. So guys, we are very close, very, very close, but I don't believe that we're done with we're not at max pain quite yet. However, there is good news to talk about. So Nick over here, who's known as the Fed Whisperer or something, says the June jobs report will make the July Fed meeting more interesting because there may be, for the first time all year, a real debate over whether to cut Fed rates, essentially is what he's saying, at the next meeting. And then you can see not only that, but Citibank comes out and says Citi suddenly looking for 8 rate cuts in a row, beginning with September's meeting. CPI this January 11th will be a canary, right? And if you guys don't know what that means, a canary is the bird that they usually send in the coal mines to go ahead and test to see if the bird dies. So it's a kind of a test, right? This to me was actually quite shocking because last time we saw Jerome go on stage and talk about things, he said that he's probably going to see maybe 1 rate cut this year in November. And now you've got a couple people coming out and saying, including Citibank, saying that they expect to get 8 rate cuts beginning in September. Every time that a rate cut happens is extremely bullish. Once we get that kind of news, I expect the markets to absolutely start pumping. And again, this lines up perfectly with our timeline. Like I keep saying, September, October. What does it mean? So are you, just chill essentially until that opportunity comes up. Okay, so what you guys want to pay attention to do here is you can see that this M2 money supply, which we've talked about many times before, now it's just barely starting to, if you zoom out on this chart, you can see, how it's been going, but it started to come down quite a while ago, right? So after the market topped out over here in 2021, the money supply actually started shrinking and they started doing quantitative tightening, right? And now what we're starting to see here, guys, is we're starting to see a tick up, and this tick up is actually the M2 money supply starting to increase. Now, this always typically acts as essentially an indicator, a leading indicator. And you can see over here on the charts, whenever we start to see the M2, this is the Bitcoin and M2 growth global of year over year, you can see that as the money supply starts to tick up a little bit, so does the price of Bitcoin. M2 global supply is blue line and Bitcoin is the black line. And so you can start to see how correlated they are. They're very, very correlated. And when the blue line goes up, Bitcoin starts to do it as well. And so we're starting to see that beginning shift. But also, when you look at things like the Fed printing or cutting rates and the jobs report as well, and a lot of bullish factors at play, the fact that it's an election year, the fact that the Democrats need to support a strong economy, and the fact that we have a very bullish presidential campaign coming in here where you've got the likelihood of Trump to win, and all very, very bullish signals coming in. When the money printer comes on, historically, markets go absolutely wild. So Bitcoin Archive says, breaking, 2024 Republican Party platform promises to defend the right to mine Bitcoin. Yes. Defend the right to self-custody digital assets, and so important. Transact free from governmental surveillance and control, and unlawful and un-American crypto crackdown, and oppose the creation of a central bank digital currency. This is all very, very bullish for Bitcoin and for the entire globe when it comes down to Bitcoin regulation or crypto regulation, adoption, the ability to innovate freely. Very, very, very bullish that we finally might actually have some sort of framework for crypto and Bitcoin to operate within the United States. We know that Trump said that he wants all Bitcoin to be made in America. Also, this is very interesting. So Quentin says that crypto is seen as one of the biggest opportunities to grow wealth by people between 21 to 43. That's me and probably most of you guys watching this. Not all of you guys, but some of you. And if you guys are over or under 43, it's probably your biggest play as well, because you guys are a very smart audience. Very, very smart indeed. That's where the big wealth transfer will take place. As we blow up this chart, you can see that crypto and digital assets is the second largest investment medium for anyone in this age bracket. And it's very, very low for anybody who's older. So in the grand scheme of things, we're going to start to see this massive wealth transfer. Whereas today, most of the 44 plus people are investing in things like real estate or private equity or even direct investment companies. But this is all going to start to go into the second most popular thing that the younger generation wants to invest into, which is crypto. That's going to be a huge wealth transfer. Now, we'll probably start to see the markets flip, and this also goes in the timeline. The rate we've been seeing the German government selling their Bitcoin, that rookie XPT over here believes that when Germany is about 3/4 of the way finished, and they're about halfway now, that we'll start to see bullish momentum. We also have the Mt. Gox thing, which he says is scary, but it's not as scary because you can't see it all on chain like you can with the German government. Again, to line up with the timeline that I'm talking about here is this big FTX thing going on where, again, that lines up so perfectly. So yeah, we're going to have some unrocky times ahead. Don't go leverage trade unless you love to gamble. And take the time here to learn what projects are great, where you want to allocate into, and understand that we could go a little bit lower and things will be very volatile probably for the next, in my opinion, 4 to 6 weeks before we start to see really bullish movement upward. I could be wrong. We could see some crazy movement up next week, but I don't think so. I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the market. And until we get these things that are pending out of the way, the markets don't like uncertainty. They like certainty, or at least they'd like to get out of the way uncertainty. So until the Mt. Gox situation is cleared up, the German thing is cleared up, and the ETH ETF is able to start being traded freely, and then we can see what Grayscale decides to do with all their ETH that's been locked up for a long time. Until those things are taken out of the way and cleared, we're going to have some uncertainty in the market, and that for that reason, I'm expecting things to be quite conservative. So for me personally, I'm going to look for good opportunities in the market. And as Mr. Baron Rothschild says, look at this guy. It's unbelievable. Look at those eyes and his face. Isn't this, if you were to ask like ChatGPT or something to draw you a character of who is the elite evil people of the world, the lizard people who rule, like, wouldn't you think it would draw this guy? I think so. But anyway, he says, buy when there's blood in the streets, even if the blood is your own. And I'm pretty sure that you guys have all felt blood recently. It has been brutal. However, this is the best time. Don't come back when the markets are pumping and say, I wish I would have bought when I felt fear. You have the opportunity right now, and everyone else is worried as well. But we have huge discounts. And I made a post earlier saying this. We're noticing a significant change in investor appetite at the moment. Previously, we've seen up to 78% of the top gainers in the top 10 consist of meme coins. Right now, we only see 10% in the entire top 20. The flight to quality and safety has begun. A meme coin run, once again, marked a local top. Note that this does not mean the altcoin run is over. In fact, we will just be starting. And I've been trying to get you guys to transition into this idea of a flight to quality. I am sick and tired of the PvP environment, the 12-hour pumps and dumps that everyone's doing in the meme coin space. So I've been looking, how does this thing evolve? There was a guy named Meow. He's basically the founder of Jupiter from Solana, which you guys know I'm a big fan of. And he made a really great post on something called PPP. Now, guys, I'm going to share this, or you can go to my X account and look at it. It's pinned on my X account. It's a blog post I made today. In my opinion, I believe this is where we all need to be focusing. Now, if you watch my channel for a long time, if you've been listening to me, you know that I've always had this mentality of protocol pump player. Essentially, what that means is that we just need to start thinking about how do we actually build economies? How do we actually build things that are sustainable? What do we need to be doing to do that? And this blog post highlights all of that. I'm pretty excited about it. And this is just part one. In the next blog post, I plan on outlining different projects that are using this. Obviously, things like Commonwealth and Paid and others. But look forward, guys. Follow me on Medium if you're not already. I'm also going to put this on Substack. And it's just the first of many blog posts that I plan on making for the future, for the foreseeable future, because I have a lot of interesting thoughts that I just haven't yet put down on paper. And now I figured it's time to start doing that. So go check it out. It's not a long read, but it's very interesting. And shout out to Meow for the original idea of the player pump player, which he highlighted in his blog post. And then mine is just an evolution of that, trying to embody the same ideals that he created, but without having to inherently trust your other fellow community members and use something like protocol revenue to pump the protocol versus or the community versus relying just on other people to come into the project. There has been $100 billion in crypto funding so far. A lot of this hasn't come into the market yet. I can tell you that from 2021 up until today, I've invested in a lot of money into projects that haven't launched a token yet. That means there's 100, I don't know what this number is, maybe 60, 50, maybe half of it hasn't been deployed yet. So don't forget that this money was invested in these companies that still have to launch their tokens. And when they do, that's a liquidity injection into the market. So we haven't even factored this in at all, right? And most amazing projects that I invested into over the past 3 years still haven't launched yet. I'm thinking like Gunzilla and many other things that haven't launched yet. And when they do, that's more capital injections in the market. These are some of the major projects that have had big fundraising rounds that haven't launched yet. These big VC projects haven't done so well. And this is why I'm trying to work with project founders to create things like PPP environments, protocol, pump, player, and good token economies and reasonable valuations, because I think that the way that most of these guys have done things in the past with ultra high valuations, and I don't think it's the way to go. I'm going to be doing a lot of kind of this just thought leadership stuff to try to put out posts on what I think is a better way to launch. Yes, I think VC funding is good from very helpful, good VCs. And I think community growth is extremely important as well. You can see that if you're playing in the game right now, the most volatile is going to be meme coins, obviously. So if we look at this chart and expand it, you can see over here that the least drawback over the past week or so has been the dino coins, right? The layer ones have also had the second least amount of pullback. What's been the most? Meme coins and AI, right? But these things are also the most volatile. So just understand that. They're also the most likely to pump the hardest when the markets turn bullish. So just understand that. Be very careful when you're playing with leverage. Be careful when you're going too aggressive into something. And understand the ones that pump the hardest probably fall the hardest as well. Your more dino secure coins that have already investor unlocks, that already have a high circulating supply, they're the ones who tend to be more stable. So just depends on what your investor appetite is like, what your risk appetite is like. We'll move over here into just a couple of the obvious solid ones. I've made videos, guys. Tomorrow I will pick back up my series of different layer 1 ecosystems and also the other one, the extended version of Ethereum, layer 2 and layer 3s. I will pick that back up tomorrow. But so far I've talked about TON, I've talked about Ethereum. We saw Bitcoin ecosystem, we have Solana ecosystem, we have Ethereum extended ecosystem, and one more surprise one as well. But you can see that Solana is the gateway, right? So Solana is always picking up the most transactions or no tokens, obviously no new tokens appearing. It is the gateway to shitcoin heaven. People need Solana to participate in the casino. So that's always going to be very popular. And of course, we've talked about so many times in the past, and I'm going to make an exclusive video on the Solana ecosystem coming up soon and the projects in that ecosystem I'm the most bullish on. As Marty Party says over here, there's been the CBOE listing. So this is good because when there was news recently of the Solana ETF coming out or the filing of it, I said, well, that still seems like a long shot to me because there's no futures markets being traded. And the futures markets are the argument that people used to get the Bitcoin ETF approved. And now they're using it for the ETH ETF. But Solana hasn't had a futures. And so when I saw the spot applications being posted, I was like, okay, that's nice, but it's probably not going to go through for a while. And I don't believe it until I see it from BlackRock. If this futures ETF gets approved, if I was the Bloomberg guys, my odds of the Solana spot ETF coming would boost significantly. So what should we be looking at? Well, like I said, there's maybe some more pain to come. Take that as an opportunity, not financial advice, but this is what I'm doing, right? I'm going to be looking to pick up some more Solana if it comes down. Right now, I'm pretty well allocated, but this is where I think is a significant buy zone over here. Anywhere between basically where it's at now, $130, which shows strong support, and anywhere between $120 to $130, I think is a really good buy zone for Solana. TON has just been nothing but strength pretty much the whole time since it started running up here, back here in mid-February. And even though the market's been pulling back like crazy, you see TON has just had so much strength, but it does have a nice little pullback right now. And I don't know that you're going to find it for much better than $7, to be honest with you. So for that being said, I like anywhere between, even right now, but if it does manage to pull back to, $550, $650, to me, that would be a pretty good place to come into the market. Caspa, we talked about Caspa many times before, probably actually, quite well priced right now. However, again, my buy zones I'm looking for here are on the high end, 15.6 cents, on the low end, 13.7, 13.8. So I'm putting some buy orders down. Because if we come crashing down, I want to scoop up some of these great projects on a discount. And ETH, well, it's sitting about $3,000 right now. And I think that there's been so much negativity around ETH for so long that I think this is kind of already priced in. Again, we could see some big sell-off when the ETF starts trading because after all, the guys who took the trade back in like November 2022 are still in profit quite significantly. So maybe they take the trade more than likely. But if you were to start dollar cost averaging in right now, maybe you buy some here at 3,000, maybe it pulls back to 26, 2,500, and then bam, back up again, DCAing in before this thing comes all the way up to maybe $10,000 this bull run. So guys, if you haven't checked out my video on Telegram or Telegram's coin TON, make sure that you go do that. It's a great video. You'll understand why I'm so bullish on it, or even Ethereum. I made an in-depth video on that as well. Check out the little pop-up screen that either happens here or here, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.